And welcome back everybody to another HTML tutorial. Previously we learned how to make our basic first ever web page, just a skeleton page, and then we learned how to upload it onto GitHub. This lesson we're going to learn some more tags that we can add to our page, to the code of our page, so we can have a little bit more variety of some content for our site. Just like last time, we want to open up the folder that contains all of our web projects in it for this course. And Web1 Projects is the name of my folder, and my first folder I made in there was called Skeleton Page. And I'm going to make another one here. This is a new folder that is called Tags Tutorial. So we want to think of these folders kind of as like the domain for those pages. So if this wasn't saved on my computer and if it was on a server that anyone in the world could access, this one here would be skeletonpage.com and my homepage would be skeletonpage.com/index.html. This one up here, tagstutorial.com/index.html. So your homepage is always going to be that HTML. The domain is kind of like your folder, and that's why in these in here I like to call them all lowercase, all one word, just to make that a little bit simpler. So that folder is created. Then in my Notepad++ or your text editor of your choice, we want to save this right away. So let's go up to Save As, and we want to put this in our Web1 folder, and then in our tags tutorial, that is all lowercase, all one word, emphasizing that a lot. And then down here where it says Save As Type, just like last time, we'll click that drop down menu, and we want to find Hypertext Markup Language File, and we're going to call this web page index.html. Now again, depending on your text editor, you may not have to enter in the .html. Just on this, for whatever reason, on my computer on Notepad++, if I don't add the .html at the end, it doesn't in fact save it as an HTML. So that might be something you have to kind of troubleshoot with your text editor that you're deciding to use. I'm going to click Save. And now we're ready to get going. And just like last time, I said this is easier to learn than I think any kind of coding, because it's so repetitive and you do the same thing so often. It's easier to catch on to. So up at the very top, we'll use exclamation mark doc type space HTML. Doc type I have all caps, HTML is all lowercase. And then underneath that, we open up our HTML tag. It's in our angle brackets, which is what we call that less than and greater than sign containing text in there. And then down here we will close our HTML tag, and we put our slash and then HTML. And then if you remember last major tutorial with our code, we talked about BB-8 or any Star Wars droid being kind of the main diagram of how we can organize our code. And there's a head and a body, just like on BB-8 or R2-D2. And here I will enter in head. Here I will close the head section. And then in here we have two things that we learned about last time. One of them is the title, and this is what shows up in our tab for our browser. So just a little review for that. So I will put simple tags for the title of this one. The second thing we learned last week was the meta space charset, CHARSET, equals quotation marks UTF-8, and then after that we have a little slash there, and this just gives us access to the characters that we might be typing or placing on our web page, like letters, numbers, symbols, copyright symbols, things like that. That's there. And then there's another one I wanted to tell you about this week. This is a new one that we're adding, so getting a little more advanced already. We go with our angle brackets, and we will go meta, and then we'll go name equals quotation marks, and we'll type in description, and then after that we're going to go content equals quotation marks, and we're going to type in something like, this page shows examples of simple tags used in HTML. And then after that we have our closing quotation marks, we have a little slash there, and this is the meta name and the description. So what this does is this shows up in your search results for your page if it's online, if it's picked up by Google or whatever. So to kind of give you an example of what that looks like, I have a little search result here for my personal web page, Code Peterson, in case you haven't guessed by the username that I use for YouTube. And so here I have my name of my page, Code Peterson. This is the home page. And then underneath that it says digital designs, branding guides and more, workshops, consulting, and professional development opportunities available. That information right there is what I typed in my content for my meta name description of my web page. So it's something that can help your web page maybe be clicked on out of search results, you know, to entice the users of the computer who are browsing through the internet to maybe want to click there. Otherwise, what it'll do is it'll normally just show the text that is the first text available on the page. So you can see underneath that, like I have my nav menu, because my nav menu is the next thing that's on top of my page, and then that's where those links are. So thought I would show you that just to kind of show you how this would show up, because we wouldn't see that otherwise, since this particular assignment or this tutorial we're just saving locally. Alright, that is the head section. Then underneath that, we know the next part that we have is the body. So angle brackets and body, and then we'll close it down here. And this is where we are going to place our tags for our content. Alright, so some of these will be a review, a couple of them will be a review, most of these will be new. Alright, so we have H1, that's one we did last week, and this is our large heading. Alright, so for main titles of our web page, so on here I'll type in main title of page. Then another one we're going to learn, this one is H2, goes in angle brackets, and here I will type in slightly smaller heading of page, and then after that the next one we'll talk about is H3, slightly smaller yet heading of page. And then we'll close this up here. So we have these three headings right here. So if I go to my folder and open up my tags tutorial, open up my page, you can see what this looks like. So this is the H1, this is the H2, this is the H3. This allows you to establish hierarchy of your pages. So maybe this here is going to be at the top of your page, and then underneath that you're going to have some H2s that are each going to have their own paragraph with them. And maybe each H2 is going to be broken down further yet into an H3 with information under there. So kind of think of your web or I guess your web page organization is being like an outline, and it's like where things gradually get smaller as a way to keep your information organized for that. And you'll learn that hierarchy is like a big concept in web design, and it's something we'll be revisiting all the time. After those, we have another review here. This one, nothing new. Paragraph. So I'll type in something here like the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Alright, and then what I am going to do is I am going to copy that, and before the end of this closing of the paragraph there, I'll just paste that several times. So just Control C, highlight it, Control C to copy, Control V to paste, and here's this information on here. If I save that with Control S and I go up here to my browser and I refresh this, even though this is each on its own line, you'll see on HTML, on these elements, if it's in the same element, in this case it's all in the P tag, in the paragraph tag, it's not going to make separate lines. It is going to keep going till it gets to the end of the browser, then it automatically wraps down by default to the next line. So that's an important concept to understand. What do I do if I want multiple paragraphs? Well, in that case, I can just copy this paragraph up here, and I'm going to paste it underneath, and I'll refresh it on here by adding another paragraph tag with information in it. That is automatically going to have the information from that paragraph jump down to the next line with a space in between. Alright, so you could say something like, let's go with a paragraph here, and then I am going to copy this and paste it like 3 times. That'll be fine. And then I'm going to type in 1, 2, 3, and then down here 1, 2, 3, I have the words that are spaced out like that. Now oftentimes I'll get the question, well, what happens if I want to have like a paragraph or a line just go down to the immediate next line, and I don't want there to be a space in between? Like if I wanted 1, 2, 3 to be like right underneath each other, how could I do that, for instance? Well, that is pretty easy also. So over here, what we would do, we'd start off, we would use our paragraph tag, because we're still using this with a paragraph. And we could type in 1, 2, 3, and then in between 1 and 2, I can put in brackets with the BR and a slash. And then I will just paste that right after 2. Alright, and if I save that and take a look at my page now, 1, 2, 3. So as you figured out, BR is like your break, and takes you down to the next line without having the blank line in between. So kind of useful, when you're trying to get structures of paragraphs or things like that, on how those things can work. Next one that we have, this is useful. So we'll put a paragraph here. And in this one, we will type in, this paragraph contains some bold words, or some bold words in it. All right. And if I put angle brackets to the left of some bold words, and in there I'll type in strong, and then after words I will close the strong tag. Not close, strong. Close the strong tag. Saying one thing and thinking another. So I'll save that, and if I open this up, you can see some bold words are strong text in there. If we wanted to, we can add another one here. So this would be something like this paragraph contains some italicized words in it. So for this one, then we could put angle brackets to the side. We can go EM right there. And then afterwards, go here, and we will also go /EM. And once we have that done, we can click Save. And go to our browser and refresh this, and you can see where we have italicized words in there. So those are kind of the main tags that we use for a lot of our HTML. Just like helping with the spacing, the paragraphs, all those kind of things, the hierarchy, emphasizing words in different ways. There's another kind of set of things that I was going to show you in here, and we'll kind of wrap this one up. So one example here is we could say in a paragraph, and you can say something like, here is some text that is raised and also some text that is lowered. So in here, if I want to go here to raised, I can put sup and close sup, and then here I can go sub and I'll close with sub. And here on my page, I'll look at this and press refresh, and you can see on there, as we take a look at this, we have raised and then we have lowered. So if you need to do something like with degrees Fahrenheit or equals MC squared, or any of those kind of math things, or whatever, where you have text arranged differently, that is one way that you can do that. Another one here that you can use for this is we could say this text has portions of it highlighted. So on here we could say maybe portions of it, that's what we'll do. So on one side I'll put mark, and then on the other side I will put mark. If I refresh that, you can see it's highlighted in yellow on there. Another thing we can do here, this one's kind of cool. So in a paragraph we have this, and then on here I'm going to type in something like Some people wonder how fun web design is. How fun is it? And then maybe here on both sides of how fun is it, on one side I'm going to use ABBR, and then after the word it I'm going to close the ABBR. In this one we actually use kind of another element here in the opening tag of ABBR. So if I type in title equals quotation marks, then I can type in it is super fun. Alright, so what does that look like? Well, if I save it and go in here and I refresh this page, I have this, and you'll see it's got this kind of goofy underline. How fun is it? If I move my cursor over the top of it, then we have a little pop-up on there, almost kind of like a little tooltip, and it says it is super fun on there. So maybe sometimes you might have something where it's like there's a link and then you mouse over it and it might say something like this will open up in a different window, or click to open in a new window, something of that nature, and that would work for that. Or if you wanted to make a web page that is a little quiz for yourself, type out the questions or your vocab, or just give the definitions, and then when you mouse over the definitions then you get what the word is. Anything like that. It's kind of a fun thing to play around with. After that, and I'm just going to give myself a little bit more room down here so you're not just reading all the way at the bottom of the screen here. I'll put in another paragraph. There we go. And in this one, we can use these things that are called block quotes. So we might say something like, this paragraph is a longer quote. The middle part is really interesting and should be by itself. So like let's say we have a big quote here, a big article, and maybe you want one of the sections of that paragraph to be kind of on its own. I don't use this one a whole lot, but some people do. So block quotes. Block quote. And then after the middle part, then I can go slash block quote. And if we look at this on the web page here, you have your text there, and it kind of sets it apart as its own text on its own. So again, it's real specialized, but sometimes people will ask how to do that, and that is a way that you can create those block quotes. Another thing you can do, this would be like, I don't know, like for example, there's a book that I really like called Branding Wins Championships, okay, and it's by Jeremy Darlow. And the way that the title reads is something that you wouldn't really be able to normally just type out on the web. So like if I type in here, it actually reads Defense Branding Wins Championships. By Jeremy Darlow. Alright, so if I wanted to get super professional about this, I could put this in my emphasized text to italicize it, right? So I have emphasized text inside of a paragraph. And then if in the way that he wrote the title, the word defense is X'd out. So what we can do is we can use del and that'll strike out our text. So save that, refresh it on here, and then there we have our title looking as the way it is intended to, like on the cover of the book. This would be and I could say something like, this is a paragraph with a quote and then other information. Alright, so let's say in here with a quote, we want there to be quotation marks around that. So sometimes, like when you're using quotation marks and things like that in coding, because quotation marks can be a part of code, it might act a little goofy. So if your page isn't looking right with your quotation marks and things like that, we could say with a quote and then use this Q tag in here, and it will put the quotation marks around the text. Sometimes people want to know, like, how do you, and we'll talk about this a little more later too, but how do you put in like symbols that are not on your keyboard, you know? So like, let's say I wanted to say paragraph, and let's say I had it in emphasized text to make it italicized, and I could say something like copyright, and if I wanted to put a copyright symbol on there, I would use what's called an entity code. And you can search entity codes on Google. There's all sorts of them that are available out there, but you can just go and copy semicolon, and then I'm going to type in 2023, for example, and if I refresh this and go to my page, you can see we have our copyright sign on there. So all of the entity codes for HTML, they're going to start with the and sign, and then there's going to be a semicolon at the end, and you can use those to kind of add characters and things to your web page also. The only other thing I can really think of that might be needed for your work this week is our angle brackets, and if we just simply type in an HR and then a slash, and I refresh my page, and then here we have our line that kind of can separate sections out from our page. And that's everything. Let me know if you have any questions. Appreciate you all watching, and have a great day.